So you're not just going to accept like, oh, I'm just going to take it because this is the way it is, which so many of us do. What is that?
Yeah. It's funny how life, especially in early years, shapes a lot of the perspective we have. And of course, being in the area that I was clinically, which I still work there every now and then, the pediatric mental health, I see that on full display. One of the lessons I learned very, very early on is if you do not stand up and advocate for yourself, do not expect anyone else to do that for you. And here's how I learned that lesson. In grade 1, there was a period of time where there was a group of kids that were in various grades. I think some of them were up to grade 5. And what would happen is me and 2 friends, we'd be playing on our Game Boys. We were playing Pokemon Gold and Silver all the way back then. And because we were so focused on the game, what we didn't notice was this group of people that would kind of just eventually surround us, and they would like make all sorts of racial jokes and all of that. And
Oh,
the
wow.
thing that surprised me the most and infuriated me the most, I would say, is that my 2 friends would never say anything while it was going on. But then after they try to comfort me, like, oh, I'm really sorry that they said that. That was really mean of them. Oh, don't listen to what they say. And yeah, I was like, I mean, that's cool that you're doing that, but why would you not say anything while it's going on? You guys just let this happen every time. So one day I was actually on the playground and I must have forgot my Game Boy at home or something like that.
This
And
is
I
in
noticed,
Calgary?
yeah, this is in Calgary. This is in
Okay.
Calgary. Crazy, right? And this is probably early 2000s, early 2000s. And I saw for the first time that what they would do, the reason I never saw them coming was number one, my head was buried in my Game Boy. But number two, they would spread out like at a huge kind of like circumference around like wherever I was, and they would slowly walk in. And I was like, so this is how these guys get me. I got you. So what I did is, that little gravel that they put on the playgrounds, I just took a whole bunch of it, stuffed it in my pockets. I think I was wearing a jacket that day, put some gravel there too, and then had 2 fistfuls of gravel, and I waited. And they kind of saw that I had seen them coming. So instead of kind of circling me like they usually do, they all kind of came up in a nice little group in front of me. I was like, perfect. So I waited for the first guy to open his mouth. And before he could even finish saying anything, bam, just threw the gravel right in his face. And this guy was shocked. He was not expecting that. And then I just remember just like unleashing, just like handful after handful. 2 interesting things happened that day. Number one, it was the last time that these guys ever came to mess with me. And secondly, my dad said something very interesting that day. And he said that the way that things are going to be for you, not only will you have to work twice as hard to get half as far, but you need to understand that if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody else ever will. And my mom was like, don't say that to him. He's going to like learn a lesson he shouldn't. But it was, and to her credit, like, yes, I probably did take it further than I should have. But what I ultimately learned was that I could not expect those friends to stand up for me because that's not their fight. I mean, for me personally, if I see somebody who I value going through something tough at the expense of other or because of other people, and it's something that does not align with my values, I will speak up. But most people are not actually like that. Nor would it be fair in the grand scheme of things for me to expect that if I'm not willing to do that for myself. So that was a very eye-opening experience. So how does this play into what we were chatting about earlier? It's the exact same thing for me. There's a group of established people that believe that because they've been there longer, because they went through it themselves, there's this weird thing with nurses eating their
Mm-hmm.
young. So it's almost like a rite of passage where you have to go through, and it's almost like a hazing thing where because I was treated this way when I started, I'm going to now treat other people that way, which to me is just the most foolish and silly thing ever. But I was not going to allow myself to be subjected to that. Many people say, oh, if you're in a toxic environment, just leave. But I really enjoy it and still to this day enjoy the work I was doing there. Was not going to allow bullies to push me out of where I truly felt I was meant and called to be. And so that was that same idea. You can't expect that the manager, the nurse clinician, or anybody else is going to fix the situation. If you yourself are not using the tools at your disposal to advocate for yourself and others, don't expect anyone else to, and don't expect your situation to change. So it's interesting how all these things are tied back, however many decades that was for me.
That's crazy. How long have you been aware of that connection?
Mm.
Is that something you've paid attention to and just say, like, I just see this, is it as a pivotal moment?
Yeah, it's something I think about often. I have always seen my life as, and I will say that this is sometimes is a problem. I have often seen myself as like the main character in a show or an anime or something like that. And that has worked very well in times when resilience is needed, but at the same time also has its problems. But because of that, there are certain pivotal moments that play in my mind as like crucial turning points in my story, if you will. And that is one of those ones. It's one of the things that I will probably remember for the rest of my life. I mean, I remember it for almost 30 years now. So I guess it's had a pretty significant impact, but it really does play in even into the way that I practice as a nurse when I'm talking to these kids who have also been bullied, whether it's for their identity, their sexuality, whatever it is that they believe that has made them a target of the ire of other people, the jokes of other people. It's the same lessons that I talk about there because they'll say, oh, yeah, I told the teacher and nothing ever happened. Do I advocate throwing rocks at people that say things to you? Absolutely not. But you do need to learn how to defend yourself in a way that allows you to do so while still staying true to your values, because that is something that is becoming increasingly important in this day and age. So yeah, absolutely. It's something I think about often that is definitely linked to the way I operate today.
Man, you said something a minute ago that just I've been thinking about. So this main
Mm,
character idea. I'm curious about how you think that idea or other ideas kind of along with that, like help you think about doing stuff that's outside of the box because you made a shift there.
yeah, it comes down to the idea of agency. So this idea of agency, the ability to have control over the outcomes around you, your environment. Again, there was times in my life I felt very powerless, especially growing up, that I didn't have the resources, the agency, the ability to decide what went on around me, the autonomy to be able to make those decisions. And so what I quickly realized it was this was because of the system that I was in, the environment that I was in. And if I was able to create my own environment that favored what it was that I wanted to achieve, the way that I operate, the way that I value things, that would be powerful. And so what I started doing is acquiring the skills that would allow me to do that. Leadership was one of the first. But then as AI started coming out, I said, okay, I don't fully understand this thing, but what I do see is that this is a tool that allows me to address gaps in my skill set, in my knowledge, and in my abilities in a much shorter period of time. When I was first introduced to ChatGPT, a good friend of mine had just shown me a couple videos and I was just blown away because my one of my weaknesses has always been like a lot of detail. I'm not a details person. I am let me understand the way the system operates, who the key players are, how power flows, and I can operate from there. And I've always been a systems level thinker. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty details, that's where everybody has their strengths, right? And so I started to understand, okay, if I can build systems that give me the ability to collect knowledge that I can then stick somewhere for when I need to reference it later, that could be powerful. One such way that I did that was by creating like an interview coaching tool within ChatGPT. It was the very first application, if you will, that I ever built because I realized pretty early on in my career, I had an exceptional skill set when it comes to interviewing. And people started realizing that too and started asking me, hey, can you help me prep for this interview? Can you help me figure out what questions I should ask? Can you be a reference for me? And these people were getting results. And so I said, okay, there's something here. Not only have I been able to interview successfully for every job I've ever interviewed for, but other people are getting similar results. So how can I package this into a system that can operate independent of me? So that was the first thing. Then I started understanding that this was something that I could share using social media. This is why I'm a big proponent of using social media effectively to share information, to draw people to you who align with your values, and to just add value to other people in ways that they wouldn't necessarily expect. And where that has kind of all come into play is when you see yourself as somebody who is in a story. In the beginning, it's kind of like the classic hero's journey. Lord of the Rings being, of course, the greatest example of this, at least in my generation, where you start off, you're naive, you're just enjoying life, and then something happens that rips you from that reality. And then you go on this journey, you find a mentor, you have to overcome things within yourself. You have to learn new skills, whether it's a new ability. You need to learn how to become a better sword fighter. You need to unlock that thing within you that is allowing you to fulfill your destiny, whatever that looks like. Then you have that final confrontation and then return where you started, forever changed. That has always been so appealing to me before I even understood what that idea of the hero's journey really was. And so that whole kind of main character thing, which some people call it main character syndrome when it's gone too far, but again, whatever works for you, that's where that's been powerful. It helps me understand that I have the ability to grow, to become more, to be able to meet other people along the way who I can either help or who can help me, to be able to build a party, if you will, that's going to get to that destination, to have that final confrontation that will then forever change the stories of everybody involved. It's kind of like a romanticization of just how life is. But again, if it works for you, it works for you.